Leanne in Adelaide back with another project. This is our little lovebird Zoe. She's joining in. Now what should we do today, Zoe? What do you think about putting some more lily pillies in? And that's my partner John talking to Zoe. You can see his blue top through that jungle there. Now the project today is we have a gap along the fence line, so you can see on the right hand side here some lily pillies, and they create that kind of natural, rather than a very formal hedge, it's just more like a treetop look, so a bit of a rainforesty look, and covering a bit of the fence line area. There's quite a big gap there in the middle. You've got at the back, and it is quite a small garden, but we've tried to create a bit of a little privacy oasis in here. We've got some bamboo along the fence that's yet to open up, and once it does it will create a lovely effect, and you'll still see lots of blue sky. Got some large leaf plants as well to create that tropical look, so you've got some fairly large leafed tiger grass. There is some cannas scattered around the garden. We've got our elephant ears. That was from Leanne's Garden Projects #1, and various shapes and sizes of cannas. Finished flowering just recently. Because the weather's still mild, we'll probably get one more flush out of it before winter. So the small leaf plants are along the boundaries. Larger leaves tend to jump forward at you. So you don't want to have the boundaries covered with too many large leaf varieties. So the bamboo works really well there. The lily pilly also works well there. They've got the glossy leaves, so they fit in with that nice tropical look. So I'll show you what we've got there currently. Both plants are not doing very well at all, and we've gave them 6 months or so to or more to try and prove themselves, but really haven't done much at all. So there's a grevillea there, and not really liking the conditions there. There's a lot of shade. Unless it gets really tall, it's not going to get much sun. You can see sun on the top of those lily please. Sorry about the shining straight into the sun. So they're capturing the sun, as you can see there, but this poor thing's getting hardly any sun at all. And then you've got another plant further over, and John's already pulled it out. Really not a very happy plant, very straggly. Look at small the root. Reasonably healthy. It can handle being out for a little bit. We're not that fussed if it doesn't survive. And there, oh, I didn't even get a chance to see it. It's already come out. Oh, look at that. Gosh, very small roots really. So I've got another one to just settle in somewhere in the garden. There's its roots. Doesn't look too bad, I guess. We've got our lily pillies over here, and John's just taking a couple through. So that's what they look like when they're young. Now, believe it or not, those three over there, they were planted only about 18 months ago, and they were pretty much the same, almost identical size to start with. So you can see what potential there is for them to really take off. Alright, so let's get planting. Now what I've done is I've come in over to the garden bed. Really hard to tell from up above how close they are. So that's the first one. We just got it tied up to this metal stake because that gets the brunt of really strong winds. Comes down, it's a wind tunnel down the side of the house. But they've got quite a decent sized trunk, so that's only just barely over a metre, or a metre. And that one, those two, there's a stake there. It's probably redundant. I don't think it's even tied up at all. They were staked up initially because of the strong winds, but they're strong enough to survive by themselves. So not that much room. So the next one, so that's the last one along, and then the next one you can see the pot there. That's probably about the right distance. You could go even slightly closer, I think, because that's a lily pilly. That's what it looks like. Alright, so just come back over here. Just working out the positioning. I've got one there.
Close or not?
And maybe a fraction too close, but then when you look underneath, it doesn't look. The trunks seem to be similar, and then you've got this next one there, and then where have you got the last one? The others are barely a metre. Now, is that going to get too close to the bamboo? I think it is. I think we need to move them.
That's fine.
All right, I think we'll try and make it scientific and go back and do some measuring. All right, let's get started on that. It's a bit hard to show the work, so I think we'll just John can get in there and do it, and we'll just do some updates as we go along with the video. Finished off. Those cannas will stay for now. They will be going in winter, but hopefully they'll flower, and we'll work out what colour they are. Got some plastic tags inside that I can put against it to remind myself what it is. So there you go, 1, 2, 3, and sort of roughly lined up with the other ones. So eventually they'll look like that. These cannas are staying as well because they're flowering, as I mentioned earlier. But again, in winter, when they're more dormant, they'll be dug up. And possibly I'll just pop them down there in that bit of a gap area. That's the hibiscus. That was one of our earlier garden projects that was transplanted. Did have to cut it back a bit, and it's not looking that great, but it's still looking okay. So that takes a fair while to recover from a transplant because they're evergreen. They don't really go into this dormant phase, so it's hard to find a time when to bring them out. So I've got the bucket and just shoved them in there. You can see some really healthy growth there, the roots. Now they're all Pretoria or Bengal tiger, with the exception of this one here. A little bit tall and leggy. It has finished flowering, but I do know what that one is. And that one has yellow flowers with sort of red spots on it, blotches. Can grow about 1.7 to 1.8. So I'm going to look at an area for the garden for that, and consolidate maybe one of our other clumps of the Bengal tiger with these new ones here, so we get a really good sized clump somewhere. It's here. John's digging a hole. There's a bit of a gap over here. There's a lot of competition from this banana palm for water. I don't know how bad the soil's going to be, and there'll probably be a few little roots that he's going to dig up from the banana palm. So we're not that fussed. If it really doesn't live, it doesn't, well, that's bad luck, but we might as well give it a chance. So it gets a second chance at life, so to speak. Now this is looking quite leggy. We're transplanting it. It's going to go through a huge shock, and those roots don't look like they're going to be able to support that kind of leggy look it's got. And the soil that we're planting it into is poorer, but you know, why not have a go? We don't really care if it doesn't make it, but let's give it a fighting chance. So I've decided that we'll get rid of a lot of this top growth. So let's have a look. So somewhere around there, just above a healthy bud, a side shoot, I'll cut there. Oh, it's harder than I thought. So removing a fair amount of the top growth. Put that in the green bin. So that's what we're left with. Now, do we need to prune it in further? I'm thinking that it might be handy just to give it a light trim back, just along all these margins. So I haven't been very scientific about it. Just getting rid of some of the lanky growth there. I think that one could go right back and turn it over. Alright, so we've got a lot of lanky growth there. There's a fork there. I'm going to go under that. Alright, so that's looking pretty brutal, but I think it will cope a lot better. Alright, yep. And just a couple of trimmings of roots. Yep, that's fine. I think that one will be right. So we've got some nice soft tie that we bought from Bunnings. It's actually a better one that's sold at Garden Express online, which is wider, but this one's not too bad. So it's a soft material tie. You can see, and it's got a bit of give. So it stretches a bit. So it allows the plant to move around in the wind rather than being rigidly held against it. And you can see a couple of casualties here as we've walked through. These have been squished a bit, but hey, they're all just tops taken off other ones around here. So again, that's up to them. If they want to survive, they will. And look at this massive pole that we've got for what is now quite a small plant. But anyhow, that's the only one we've got at the moment. And because it's sandy soil, I think it's going to be fairly easy to knock in. The other bonus of that is that if it does flower, then the honey eaters, there are a couple of honey eaters that seem to hang around our garden a fair bit, and they mostly feed on, whoops, I'm going to move away because that's pretty noisy. They mostly feed on the nectar that are in the canna lilies. They hang upside down and all sorts. And you often see them, the flowers end up hanging down like that because of the weight of the bird on there. And this morning, out the window of the kitchen's just in there, I was just doing something on the stove, getting tea ready, my cup of tea, and there was a honey eater hanging upside down in there trying to get as much as it could out of that flower. So, and I've also seen the honey eaters in there trying to get into those flowers. So they'd be nice to give them another source of nectar and something that might end up being a bit more reliable. Doesn't really fit in with the tropical style of the garden, but you know, you've got to break the rules sometimes. So, and John wants to know where the fluffy one is. Where is it? Yeah. Oh, excuse me while I choke. Now, it's next to the ginger. What? Oh, piece broke off. No, that's okay, because I can just shove that in the garden somewhere. Yeah. Yeah. So we've been walking through there a lot. I'll break. That piece can go somewhere. So the fluffy one, that's the fluffy one. I'll get the name for it in a sec. Where are we going to put that? Goodness knows. Yeah, temporarily. Yep. All right. Why not? Yeah. So again, I think that needs a trim back. So I'll get you to put it in first, and then I'll trim it back afterwards, rather than the other way around. Oh, well, that one broke off. That's the one that was bit that was broken earlier. And do we have a stake that's a mile long for that one? No. No. He gave me that look. Really? I was trying to be a bit of a smart ass. Didn't last very long. We overfed it and we went mad with watering. I think a 4-year life cycle, we turned it into a barely 2-year life cycle. The fluffy plant, as John called it, that's called Adenanthos Bronze Glow. Doesn't have any bronze glow at the moment. Just waiting for that to refocus. So I'm sure as it gets more mature, it will. I'm going to give it a bit of a cut back. You can see some bits that are hanging down, kind of leggy. So we'll just give that a little trim now we've settled that in. So Zoe's having a lovely little tweet. She normally just jumps straight over there. I don't know what's Oh, she went straight up to the other perch. Oh, that was an interesting one. She's just been on the screen. You can see it's still moving around. Off she goes. See, look at the way she does that. So, say goodbye, Zoe. That's the end of another garden project. Goodbye, Zoe. Bye from Zoe. And it's goodbye from Leanne in Adelaide. We're at the end of another gardening, Leanne's garden projects. Bye.